All right, welcome to Tinfoil Hat Time, episode number two. See if I can do a little bit better than last time. So today, what I wanted to talk about is how the economy works, how to make it a business. So if you think about business, they're just little micro economies. And back in the day, before everybody was so greedy, I remember hearing about companies that would actually offer profit sharing. So the better the company did, at the end of the year, or whenever, you as a as an employee would get a share of the profits. So I thought about it watching TV today, and I was like, well, you watch all these movies, and when they're talking about the villain rich people, they always talk about their money being simply a way to keep score. So what if we all did that? What if we all only had money as a way to keep score? What would that be like? And think about it, it's exactly the game of Monopoly. Like the game of Monopoly, everyone starts off with what, like $1,500, and you get your little piece, and you start on go, and you roll the dice, and off you go. Like that's your date of birth, and you're gone. Figure your shit out as you go. You roll the dice, collect cards, you buy shit, you sell shit, you live in an imaginary penthouse, whatever. Every time you pass go, you get a couple bucks, and that's how you make your money. Why couldn't that work for 8 billion people? You think about it. So last time when I was in my super high state, I guess I need to lead this off with a warning. I have no education and no background in any of this stuff that I'm talking about. This is strictly smoking pot, reading books, watching YouTube, listening to podcasts. All this stuff gets mixed up in my head and I'm spewing it out to randomness. So, um, back to the game of Monopoly. So, why can't we make an economy like a game of Monopoly? It'd be so simple, right? So, if you eliminate, if you only have one bank, one person, because there's only one bank in Monopoly, one person to handle all the money, and you can see all the transactions that are being done, that's really the only thing that you would need to fix. So if you have those two things set up, basically the world stays pretty much the same. Now, how would the business make money? Well, that's where it gets interesting. Right now, we pay taxes. We all know rich people don't pay taxes because they own businesses and then take on debt and write the debt off as a loss, even though that it's the money that's the debt's being loaned against money that they put in an investment. But since the investment is making interest, it doesn't count. It's a big fucking loophole, but there's loopholes where they don't pay any taxes. So I think it was like my sixth grade economy teacher, social studies teacher, some kid that was like right out of college was like, I don't know why we have taxes at all. Why don't we just charge people for the shit that they buy? And when you think about it, doesn't that solve all the loopholes? If you're a poor person, you're getting all the money that you're making, right? Like, oh, you go to work, all the money goes in your pocket. So if you need to buy shoes or buy food or buy whatever else, you can, but you're only paying for a tax on that as opposed to the billionaire who wants to buy that $700 billion yacht. Well, guess what? You got to pay taxes on that. So who's going to be paying more taxes? The people who are buying more shit. So how would that work exactly? Right now, the average person, like I said last time, I think pays something around 20% in taxes and insurance. Like 20 to 25% of their paychecks are gone before they even before they even get started. So you have to worry about that. and there's only one bank, so all of the money, all the credits is on in one spot. So anytime money goes outside of your paycheck or money from the government, anytime that money goes into your account, anything else goes in your account, 20% of it, boom, right to whatever the umbrella company is called. It's basically your union dues, we'll call them. So we're all part of the monopoly union, and every time somebody else besides the union puts money, or the monopoly puts money into your account, or your employer puts money into your account, those other transactions, 20% of it goes directly for your union dues. So the more money you spend, the bigger your dues are, because you're bigger. You're It's the way it works. There's probably an explanation for the way it contributes, but you have your the big people need to take care of the little people. So you're in a position that you have the ability to spend all the money. You get to be able to contribute more to the financial aspect of the company. So how would that 20% get spent? We went over. I said this in a shenanigans of nonsense, but split it 50-50, because 50% of it needs to run. Obviously, you need to make sure the company is running, right? So 50% of it goes to paying for medical bills, upgrading and maintaining all of the stuff that that needs to be fixed. So your infrastructure, your uh, there's no more politicians, worry about that. So, but your infrastructure, just infrastructure, your health insurance, all of those things that get paid for. And if any money is left over, then it goes to what we'll call for right now special interest groups. So you get to like a grant, it's a grant money, you or a loan from the government at zero interest. We're not using it right now. Fucking go to town. But so you get this money, and then you can start businesses or build community centers or whatever it is that you want to do. That's how it works. Um, so that's how what 150% of that goes, and the other half is going to go for everybody in the business gets an equal share. So the CEO gets the same as the desk clerk. Everybody gets 50% divided 8 billion ways. And when we looked at it last time, there was $10 trillion in money moved every day in America, it says. Now, I don't know how much I believe that, but I can believe that, 7 or 8 trillion dollars move in the entire world every day. But let's say that it is $7 trillion, thousands, millions, billions, $7 trillion times 20%, 0.20. You got $1.4 trillion in taxes, in union dues contribution. Of that, the government's going to get $700 billion. $700 billion every day times 365 days. Thousand million. It's $255 trillion. $255 trillion in union dues every year. What what couldn't you fix with $255 trillion a year? And what's the American debt today? How much debt is America? What is the U.S. debt? What is the U.S. debt? The U.S. debt clock. There's a fucking clock. No way. All right, usdebtclock.com. Says the U.S. national debt is thousand million billion $33 trillion. Holy shit! There's a lot of fucking clocks in here. Income tax revenue is only $2 trillion. The U.S. federal tax revenue makes $12,970 on you every year. Wow. But every person is responsible for $3,800 in adding to the debt every year. How the fuck do I add to the debt? You fucking pay me shit. That's crazy. Oh wow. In any event, $33 billion in debt America is today. And we could make $255 trillion a year if if $7 trillion a day moves through the economy. Now, obviously, these are all numbers that I don't know how to research. I just did a Google search and got to it. But how far off can they be? Now, does the economy shrink when you stop doing this? Because maybe we're not moving these big, huge chunks of money anymore. But we're talking about the monopoly aspect of it, right? So if we're playing the monopoly game, every time you pass go, you get a paycheck. Well, for partaking in the game, which there would be different rules to the game, but every time you pass go, you get your cut of that. And like we said last time, $700 billion divided by 8 billion people, let's say 9 billion people. Thousand million billion is $77 a day. So $77 a day times 30 days, you get $2,300 a month. So every time you pass go, instead of getting $200, you get $2,000. $2,000 a month is more than over half of the world makes. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy. Half of the world makes, I think, oh, maybe it's not. 12 times 2 is 24. No, I think I'm off a little bit. But still, there's a significant number of people that make less than $2,000 a month. And think about it. $2,000 a month is a huge chunk of change. So these people who are working at McDonald's to try to make ends meet and do all this other shit, I'm not going to do that anymore. So they can go and they can do something that they may enjoy or do something that's a small. With this game, it works out pretty well. But what do you got to do to earn it? Obviously, you got to make your way around the track. So to be eligible for this, you obviously have to be a member of the union to be under Monopoly Corp. But after that, you need to take care of making sure Monopoly Corp runs. So you're going to be responsible for making all the decisions. Every member has to vote essentially on how to do whatever aspect needs to be done. Do we need more roads? Do we want to go to pay for schools? Do we want to whatever needs to be decided? That's your responsibility to get your paycheck, and then you have the same opportunities that you have today. So you want to run a business, you run a business. If it fails, tough shit. Now there's no more bank to bail you out. The government, like we'll get into the economy later, but like you can get bailed out, but like if something happened, there wouldn't be an opportunity for stuff to happen like the crashes that we've had in 2000 and the crash that we had in 2008 and the recession that we're in now. We wouldn't be able to do those things because there's only a finite amount of money in the system. If the bank runs out of money, there's no more money to be had. So then you have to figure out how to make that work. But I think that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, I think that the game of Monopoly solves the problem of the economy because if we all because you still had to pay taxes. You got that card that said you had to pay taxes. Well, every time you pull out your card, that's when you get to pay your taxes. That's when you pay your union dues. When you pull out your card, you spend that money, it goes to somebody else's account. Boom. That's movement in the economy. We take a little piece because we own a little bit of everything. That's where I think our boy Hans Gruber, not Hans Gruber, what's the guy's name? A guy in charge of that looks like Dr. Evil from the World Economic Forum. He said, and I think it's not. There's probably more to it. Obviously, I didn't do a lot of anything looking into it, but where he said that in 5 years we're going to own nothing and be happy about it. I think that's actually true. So the reason why I think that is because unlike Monopoly, when you bought your plot of land and you wanted to build a house, you had to pay $200 or whatever. I don't remember how much it is. I'm $50. It depended on what property it was. But when you bought that property, you got to keep it. But what I think we're gonna like the new the new system will be you get half of it. Like you only if you yeah, it's everything is 50-50 unless you can if you can't afford it and you need to take a loan for it, then you only get half of it. So there's no interest on anything. When you buy it, 50% of the equity goes to the the company and 50% of the equity goes to you. So you can use that. It's in equity works. Anything that you can get a loan on, you get to be able to use the equity in it. So it becomes more crazy and chaotic. Um, when we start getting into the economy portion of everything, there's a lot of moving parts, but there's a lot of things to go with this. But that's kind of the blueprint to it. Basically, it's a game. If we could change the world into a big game of Monopoly and eliminate all of the politics, I think we can develop an economy that has the opportunity for more equilibrium and opportunity for people to explore more of a thinking aspect of things. Um, to tangent off of that, I think the problem that we have with, I think we have a lot of problems with the youth of today, but I think one thing that we lose sight of is people. I'm I'm of the generation where I saw the transition from an analog society to this internet society. And when we talk about what we expect from our youth, I think their values are different than our parents and our grandparents' values. They're of an information age where their values are more about deciphering the information and disseminating it to the masses. Whereas my generation, I'm uh, born in the 80s, so we're kind of right in that midsection of everything. Your values and what you were valued on and what you looked for was more of somebody who could put in a hard day's work, did did shit with their hands, was outside like building things, and we still need that, and there's still those people in the society, but I think a lot we're of an information age where more and more of us want to be thinkers. As George Carlin would say, they don't want you to think. But I think with all of the information that's getting dumped into these kids, into everybody, some people are brain dead looking at cat videos and TikTok videos of people trying to eat their weight in hot dogs or whatever. and that's fine. And that's about 80. I mean, that isn't wrong, but if it falls into the 80/20 rule, that's probably 80% of the viewers of with all of this information that's available to them. But there are 20% or more or less or whatever that lesser proportion. Maybe it's not lesser, but in my mind, I feel like it is. But there's a lesser proportion of people who are using all of this information and trying to just consume as much as they can. And I am the person who's been consuming a lot of information over the last 3 or 4 years, and it's all been bouncing off the walls. I just got done with a book that is the reason why I'm doing this podcast or whatever this is called, or this the reason I'm mumbling in my computer for 30 minutes every day about nonsense, hoping that I can find somebody to talk to about it. But it's I know what I know what to do, so why don't I do it? By Dr. Nick Hall. It is a super interesting book. I don't know a lot about Dr. Hall, but he was a PhD doctor that got into how to maintain motivation. It kind of it's really probably more complicated than that. But he says in the book he's going to approach this. He wrote, he's doing seminars basically, but he says he's doing the science with pragmatic applications. Not probably not the right words, but basically what he is saying is like in a lab, things will work, but in a lab, it's controlled, and in the world, it's chaos. And I feel like we live in a place where a lot of people are trying to control the chaos. And science, if you're going to call yourself, isn't like economics a science degree or a math degree, math science degree. If you're going to put yourself in that, you got to follow a scientific method. And all the stuff we've done so far has all been regulated and manipulated. So it's not, we haven't got a real outcome of what if we make it the wild, wild west? What if the only rule is that, like, what, yeah, what if we just let it go? What if there's very minimal regulations on thing and we just let the the people decide? Now, this is where the generation that we are growing up with, that are growing up today with all sorts of issues, because we got moron parents trying to do moron things to kids who may be brilliant or maybe morons. Don't get me wrong. There's probably, again, majority of them are going to be idiots. Majority of people, 80% of people are idiots. I'm probably the biggest one. But 80% of us and 20% of us are making it so we don't blow each other up. And good for you. We've been doing a good job so far. But I forgot what I was saying. So ranted it off with that. But yeah, like with that, the 20% of the society that's been consuming this information will have the ability to sit down just like this and get the information out, with everything truly being for the love of whatever they do. If you're making $2,000 a month to just maintain the, just make sure the business is running, and you voice your opinion on what, how you feel things should be going, if you're getting paid that much money, what is it worth to you to do what you want? Because there are content creators that are out there now that are making tens of thousands of dollars every month just doing stupid shit. Now this gets to be the way news and information is disseminated, and then thoughts start to grow, and then movements start to happen, and everything gets to evolve. We've been in a place, and I don't know if this is true, but it feels like our society hasn't evolved in 200 years. Our economy's evolved, our technology's evolved, but our society hasn't evolved. And I think we're at a tipping point where our economy and our technology have far surpassed where our society can handle. And it's time for a reset for the society. I don't agree with, I don't know anything about the World Economic Great Reset. I know that it's a lot of negative energy behind it, probably worth of it, knowing, reading some of the names that are on there. But this flip side of that is to make something like this work, you need to have that kind of money and power to do it. So trying to keep these under 30 minutes. Next time we'll talk about whatever else pops into my brain. Um, if anybody watches this, I'm at Tinfoil HT on Twitter. You can comment here. I'd love to have some discord about this and figure out how crazy it really is. All right, cool. Later.